Hi everybody, it's Owen from farfarway.org. This is game 3 of myself and Phil's Spring is Coming campaign. So we've won a game apiece, which puts us equal on campaign points, and from an attrition perspective, I've probably taken out slightly more of Phil's force than he has mine. But you know, it's a close thing. This game I'm forced to use Saeryn because Callus was assassinated in the last game. So this is a flank scenario, and unfortunately I didn't get a picture of the deployment. So this is where my force deployed, because this is Phil's turn 1. And Phil's was deployed in kind of an area just around here. Um, so the objective is to control the areas on the opponent's side of the board. So for our flanking force, I have a rake, a death stalker, and a spell martyr. So I think this flanking force, a couple of things on its side. You know, you've stealth on the rake and the Deathstalker. You've got an unexpected spell threat angle coming from the spell martyr. So there's good things going for it. Plus the rake's animus is really quite useful if you end up in a sticky situation late in game. So my flank units could come on kind of along here or along the back edge, but honestly I'm not sure why you'd bring them in along the back edge. You know, take them a while to get into the fight. And Phil's could come along here. Phil had a unit of Tarn Ravagers. So leading up Phil's force, he had Morvahna, and the rest of the force was made up of a unit of Wolves of Ouroboros, Gorax, the medium-sized walled construct, and then a walled weird, and then the unit of Wolf Riders here. For my army, I had Saeryn and in our battle group are 2 heavies, the Carnivian Angelius, and 2 lights, the Harrier and the Shredder. The Gobbers were there for a little bit of screening support. The Ogren are there, just a bit of punching power. And a unit I'm really enjoying using again, I haven't used in a long time, are the Striders, and they're there with the UA. They're so versatile. So as you can see, Phil pushed up fairly aggressively on turn 1. In response, I kind of just pushed back down. Got my 2 flying units pretty far forward, hoping that Phil's flankers coming in here wouldn't be able to reach them. I think they were safe enough, though Phil didn't bring them on next turn. The Striders, I think, managed a pot shot against the... certainly 4 of them managed a pot shot against the Celestial Fulcrum, then used their reform move to back up a bit. Everything else just advanced up. Some animus were cast. I put respawn onto the Carnivian, and that was pretty much that. On Phil's turn, he again pushed up aggressively. He used the Wolf Riders to try and take some shots at the Striders, but couldn't quite get in the 5 inches to negate the stealth. He chose not to bring on his flanking force. Then the Wolves of Ouroboros push up really aggressively through the area I needed to control, and all of his beasts were in there as well, so there's quite a concentration of force, and Morvahna's in the back here. So from my perspective, you know, things were really starting to hot up. The train was starting to trip both of our armies up, but Phil was definitely in a pretty aggressive position. So on my turn, I took out the lead wolves, and moved my beasts in fairly aggressively in the mix of things. And the only way I was able to get them in there so aggressively was to use the feat of Saeryn. And unfortunately, I was kind of stuck. The walled weird was really in my way. Saeryn couldn't really cast the spell she wanted because just the double cost was really going to hurt. So I did upkeep upkeep respawn on the Carnivian. But other than that, I had to get the Angelius in. So with the feet up, the Angelius was able to charge right into the walled weird, and a couple of fury later, and it was gone. So that was a good return. I had brought on my flanking force. The Deathstalker was pretty ineffective, did a few points of damage onto this wolf here. The rake moved as quickly as it could to get into base contact, or at least challenge and melee the Celestial Fulcrum, because under defeat, remember, it's going to be immune, so it wasn't going to stop the Fulcrum being able to move up there. I couldn't get far enough across, but it was see, and Phil's turn, he had a response for the rake anyway. Then that was pretty much it. I think the Striders again took a combined range attack onto Celestial Fulcrum, doing a few points of damage, and that was pretty much that. Everything else was just kind of getting into position, but I was starting, as I said, to trip over my army a little bit. Carnivian came in the side here, the Harrier came in here, so they're all pretty safe from melee reprisals anyway. On Phil's turn, he saw the opportunity to use assault as a way of taking out the rake. So between the three wolves that could kind of get an assault on him, that did enough damage to take the rake out. I pulled back the Fury, and then the Celestial Fulcrum moved in. Took as many shots as it could. Phil had feated at this stage, forgetting that his feat was only effective against melee kills. So really, it was a bit of a waste of the feat. Um, the wolves of Ouroboros moved around trickily. They didn't want to get free strikes. Phil was also very cautious about the Angelius's animus, so his ability to repulse models away up to 3 inches. He was afraid of me being able to push them away and then get a charge off on Morvahna. So he kind of clogged the area, clogged the gap between the Angelius and the Carnivian, and really kind of everything was getting very messy here. So a scenario win was looking less and less likely. On my turn, I decided I'd focus as much damage output as I could into this region, but really this was the big damaging turn for me. I mean, I did most of the power output here. So one of the things I did early on was to use Saeryn to cast Blightbringer onto the Angelius, which was in position there, essentially killing all the wolves that were around it. Phil had cast Regrowth on them, so he does have the ability to bring them back, but I was hoping if I do enough damage here that it could really hurt. I was able to clear a path from the Carnivian down to the Gorax, so the Carnivian tore it apart, and then the Shepherd came in, taking the Fury off of him. This left the Angelius then with kind of a clear path to move into a position like this, and just here was where the medium-sized Wold was, and it went to town on it and took it out. I didn't want to go too hot on Fury. I was running a little bit hot this turn, so I had the Shredder maxed, the Harrier maxed, and I did 3 on the Angelius as well as a couple on Saeryn, so I was running a little bit hot. The other big thing you'll notice is the Celestial Fulcrum was taken out, so the Striders started that off by doing a CRA onto it, and then on the reform move, they moved into, as best they could, block off some of the wolves here. Then the Warmongers charged in and did the damage, and that took it out. So all told, a pretty good turn and a pretty good amount of damage put out there. On Phil's turn, he brought in his flanking unit. They charged, but were out of range, so that was a bit of a relief. He used Morvahna to bring back some of the wolves, and he realised he was in kind of a bit of a tricky situation, and trying to get at Saeryn was going to be really, really hard. So he basically tried to do as much damage as he could, because at this stage he has no beasts, so he has nowhere to transfer to, and 2 of my beasts are kind of very much up in his grill there. So he brought back some of the wolves. They charged up, did a bit of damage, took out a Strider, and did a bit of hurt there. Then used Morvahna, brought her across, tried to hit the Angelius and damage it so that he could do transfers onto it, but that didn't pull off. So I'm in a pretty good position now to go for the assassination. So on my turn, that's exactly what I did. Saeryn activated first. No, actually that's not quite right. I did as much damage to Phil's units as I could with the stuff I knew had nothing to do with the assassination. So over here, get the Warmongers in the mix. Unfortunately, one of my own Warmongers killed off a wolf, and then consequently went berserk and killed my Shredder. So that definitely wasn't the most glorious moment there. Saeryn, when she activated, put Blightbringer onto the Angelius, boosted the damage against Morvahna. That did quite a lot of damage. I activated the Carnivian next. He boosted his hit rolls, and when they contacted, just went to town on Morvahna, and that was game over. So a good game. So that's 2 wins to me, 1 to Phil. I did quite a lot of damage to his force again. My beasts are pretty intact there. Even my units weren't mauled too horribly. So looking at the overall list I have for the annihilation lists, they're doing okay. So I'd be interested to see what game 4 brings.